Hi everybody, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's just Chris back with a match review of Manchester City 2, Newcastle United 0. Yes, the losing streak continues. Mind you, it's not the first time we've lost at the Etihad, so it is something that we're used to. But again, it's disappointing. Run of results that aren't going our way and players seriously out of form. So we're going to get stuck into that in just a second. Have a look at how we lined up and just talk a little bit about how we think the game went. So just before we do, a little reminder, if you haven't, please click that subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're on 2,530 something, I think, at the minute. So getting close to 3,000. Smash that button. You'll not regret it. All free content. Mondays and Wednesdays, podcasts and pop-up videos just like this. Come and join us and just hear all about Newcastle United and for the good, the bad and the ugly, which we're going to get stuck into now in the game. So the debate before the game really was all about the lineup, about players being off form, players looking knackered, players needing maybe a rest. So we all had players that we were picking out in particular, certainly up front and defensively. Eddie Howe didn't quite do what everybody thought we were going to do, what we wanted to do. Obviously, the big change was Nick Pope was back in between the sticks. So it was great to see Nick Pope back. Massive difference in the back four with Jamal Lascelles coming in, who I was not very pleased with at all, to be honest with you. I think he's very, very overrated as Jamal Lascelles. I think there's better years away behind him. Certainly when you're playing against Erling Haaland and your Fodens and your Grealishes and all these players, just for me, put Lascelles in there scared the shit out of me personally. Dan Burn continued at left back, which I didn't think he should have. I was very much an advocate of him going inside and putting Matty Target, who was on the bench again, which was good to see at left back. But Fabian Shaw apparently was concussed, which again is a little bit concerning because he was concussed last week. Should have been hooked off. Shouldn't have been allowed to play that game against Manchester United if he was concussed. That's a bit dangerous. In terms of midfield as well, we didn't see Willock come in, so Sean Longstaff continued alongside our blonde Brazilians in Bruno and Joe Linton. And up front, Anthony Gordon did get a start, but Eddie Howe still persevered with Callum Wilson, which is a real bone of contention, and we'll explain why in just a minute. So how did the game go? Again, it was another one of them performances, really, in terms of some good football, played well with the ball, pressed people, some good possession stats, but just no end product yet again. The biggest chance of the game for us, really, you got to look at the Callum Wilson one. Beautiful ball over by Sean Longstaff. Trippier makes a great run in behind, puts it across with a header, and Wilson's on his heels yet again and fluffs the finish. And I know it's maybe harsh to say that, but it's happening week in, week out. I mean, he was a passenger against Man United at Wembley last week. It wasn't as bad this week. He was kind of up against it, the tussle with the Man City back four, but the ref didn't give him a great deal. But he's just become too predictable as well. He wasn't pulling out wide. He wasn't trying to spin on the shoulder. He wasn't getting in pockets of space. He was just saying, play the ball to me. I'm going to have a wrestle with this defender, try and win a free kick, and get us back on the front foot. And City just saw through that really quickly, to be honest. They beat us. They beat us kind of without breaking sweat, really, in all fairness. I mean, Phil Foden was magnificent. I thought he's really come back to form, and we couldn't handle a play like that. That was the first goal. He absolutely has Dan Burn on toast. His legs are wider open, and Sharon Stone's and basic instincts. He knocks it through him. He's round. Takes a shot again. Botman comes over to cover some of his teammates' deficiencies. It deflects off him, goes in the back of net. We're 1-0 down. But we stayed in the game at 1-0. We had a chance to get back in. Obviously, Wilson has that chance and fluffs it. We had a bit of the ball and just huffed and puffed and didn't blow the house down, And again, it's that attacking limpness that really costs us in games. Eddie Howe makes 3 brilliant subs in the second half and just added pure energy to the side. Alexander Isak, Maxi and Willock, and Isak in particular, he just looked everything Wilson wasn't when he come on. He was finding space. He was getting behind the City back four. He was scaring the life out of them. There was one particular time I think he got the ball and he just spun the City centre half. I think it might have even been Nathan Aki, and he just absolutely had him on toast and put it across the box. Unfortunately, it's Maxi at the back stick and he can't head the ball to save his life. He needs to bring them hairbands back. I think it might be better heading the ball if he brings them back. But they looked like they added some real energy, and we were feeling quite positive to get back into the game. And then what do great teams do? Like City, they go around the other end and they score. Bernardo Silva makes it 2-0, and that's us pretty much fucked. We're not going to get back into a game against Man City at 2-0 down at their place. Nothing else really to report, really. It was a little bit of argy-bargy. I mean, Jack Grealish was flinging himself around like a fanny in a fit every 2 minutes and, screaming for people to get yellow cards. Dan Burn took a bit of umbrage with it, basically leaned over and called him a fanny, I think. And then Erling Haaland took umbrage with that. They had a little bit of handbags and so on, but nothing really major going on there. Big blow was Joe Linton getting a yellow card. So that's him now missing 2 games through suspension. And Joe Linton is so key to us that it's massive to lose him for that. But the next 2 games coming up for Newcastle, you would say are winnable fixtures. You've got Wolves at home, which is a massive game now to try and get any momentum back to keep us in the race for Champions League. I personally think that's gone. We'll cover that on, I'm sure, what's going on Evermore as well this week. But I think we are cooked for the top 4. I think we're done. Can't see us getting back in there at all. Squad's too thin. We're dropping too many points. Things aren't going well and nothing seems to be changing either. So I don't think we're top 4, but we need to try and stay in this top 6 picture and get European football this season. Because if we don't get that, I don't care how positive you are, you can think everything is awesome and have sugar injected into your bloody veins. If we don't finish in a European spot this season and lost the I keep saying Carling Cup, that's how old I am, Carabao Cup final, then it's a bad season. It's a disappointing season. Yes, we're nowhere near where we were last season, but to be so good and be so on the front foot and into competitions and having such a potential and then blowing it really, through injuries, suspensions and drop off in form and fatigue will be disappointing. So Wolves is a massive game, and we've got Forest after that. Some old Newcastle boys there with John Joe Shelby and Chris Wood. You can just see a script getting written there. I hope it doesn't. But it's a huge game at St James's against Wolves, so we need to go at that full pelt. I want to see the players who come on today starting those games. I think Matty Targett at left back, we all thought he should have started. Alexander Isak up front has to start that game. Eddie Howe cannot keep faith with Callum Wilson. He looks shot to pieces, absolutely shot to pieces. He's not the same player. He's completely fucked. He hasn't got that zip of speed. He's a passenger, and we can't afford to carry passengers in this side at the moment. I think Maxi was unfairly dropped as well. I thought he's looked really good in the last couple of weeks. Felt a bit sorry for Gordon. He had a couple of moments where he looked like he was going to do something. He was always available for the ball. What I liked about Gordon, he didn't. He was on for about an hour and he come off. We didn't really get him in positions a great deal. A couple of times he played some decent balls in, but unfortunately didn't really have much of an impact. But again, against a lesser team, no offense to Wolves, Gordon could have been running behind, finding that space, and everything else. So I think, we haven't seen it better of him, and hopefully we will see better to come from Gordon. But yeah, it's a disappointing day. I wouldn't expect us to beat Man City even at our top form. But again, it's just the same old thing. We've got the ball, we're playing with it, we're getting possession, we're passing it around and everything else, and we just don't have that cutting edge. We don't have that player making that run for Bruno to find him. We don't have that player getting on the end of Trippier's crosses. Trippier was slightly better today than he has been in the last few weeks. He lost the ball a hell of a lot today, though, and he fouled Grealish a lot. And it doesn't take much for Grealish to go down because, as I said, he's an absolute fanny. But, Trippier was fouling them left, right and centre, and that is a bit of a worry because, yes, Grealish is on good form at the minute. But, if wingers are going to start coming and putting tricks out like that, Trippier to get him booked and everything else, that's going to be a real concern. But that game today, just to summarise it, that game shows me exactly how far away we are really from being the top 4 side. We lack strength and depth. We lack 3 or 4 more quality players that can keep us in a game like that, get us a draw or get us a victory. I've already said it before. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. January transfer window, missed a trick. Everyone's talking about FFP and all that stuff. There was deals that we could have done, in my opinion. I think that could have given us another 1 or 2 or 3 more players. And then if you qualify for Champions League, then your financial gains from that could offset what you spent on the players, especially if you split them over a long period of time, like Chelsea did, signing players and paying over 8 years or whatever it is as well. So for me personally, I think we'll drop the bollock in January. The new owners walk on water, and the best things to slice bread. And yes, they've saved us from Ash and everything else, but you've got to hold them accountable for some things. And in my eyes, the January transfer window was a little bit of a failure by signing Anthony Gordon for 40 million, who, yes, looks all right, but is he really going to be a game changer? Why didn't you pay 10 more and buy Madison, for example, who could have been a game changer? And you signed Harrison Ashby, is even Premier League ready? Who the fuck knows? I haven't seen a kid since we signed him. So that's a big issue. But listen, I'm not going to get too down about that game because Man City will beat anybody on the day. We haven't won in the Etihad for God knows how long, through the dark times, through the good times. They're a really good side, one of the best sides in Europe, got some of the best players in Europe. So it's not too bad to leave there with a 2-0 defeat. But the biggest story here for me is that the changes that needed to be made weren't made at the start of the game, especially with Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson being the primary change that should have been made in that team. I think if Alexander Isak starts that game, he puts that chance away, Wilson fluffs, and we might get back into that game. I might be right, I might be wrong. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. We always like to hear what you have to say. As I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us and like the video. More importantly as well, help it get around YouTube and help the channel grow. Mark and I will be back on Monday night for What's Going On. I'm sure we'll get stuck into a bit of the meat from the game at the weekend and a few discussion points. Then Mark will be back hosting on Wednesday because I won't be there. Duty calls, unfortunately, my day job. So I won't be there this Wednesday, but Mark will be. So make sure you tune in for Evermore Wednesday at 7 p.m. again. So let's keep supporting that team of United in the meantime. Disappointing result. Roll on Wolves next week. Let's try and get back to winning ways and try and get back in this European football race. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. We'll catch you later. Cheers.